Welcome to episode number 16 of the Riverfront Bengals show, where we come to you every Thursday to discuss the week that was and the days to come in the Cincinnati Bengals multiverse. And we tend to do so in completely and utterly nonsensical ways. We are the very show that was recently recognized as the third most dangerous podcast in the island republic of Kiribati. We are your hosts. I'm Nate Dotson. He's Joe Farsing. Joe, how the hell are you?
Winning the Battle of Ohio, I am doing fantastic, man. What about yourself, buddy?
I can't complain a bit. It's another Bengals win. But before we get down to business and hash out that win over the Cleveland Browns on Week 14, if you don't mind, or even if you do, go give us a like, follow, subscribe wherever you consume this podcast. And we are available everywhere. It helps us to get the show out in front of people, and getting in front of people is always a good idea, especially when lining up for a holiday dinner at the same time as my cousin Big Mike, who is not known for leaving any food behind for anybody else. So let's jump right in, Joe. I don't know. Big Mike does not share.
That's
I don't know if you heard. I don't know if you've been. What's that?
I was gonna say just share the food, Big Mike. At least mashed potatoes or something. Come on, leave something.
There's no seconds in Big Mike's world. Joe, I'm not sure if you heard this. I don't know if you were paying attention this week, but Joe Burrow finally got the Browns monkey off his back as he and the rest of the squad got through Week 14 with a 23-10 win over Deshaun Watson's handy-dandy Cleveland team. What are your 30,000-foot viewpoints now that we're a few days removed?
It's funny because this is one of the games, like usually against the Browns, he starts off sharp until some stupid turnover happens. Tip pass, or last year they were down inside the red zone. And he threw a 99-yard pick six to Denzel Ward. He was sluggish for a big chunk of the first half. A lot of that has to do with the fact that T. Higgins played a grand total of one snap, which I don't know if everyone heard. They ruled him out during warm-ups. Like he was listed active and then went out and tweaked his hamstring, and he just wasn't ready to go. He still snuck out onto the field unbeknownst to Zach Taylor and Brian Callahan for a snap. He wasn't supposed to be on that play. He just went out anyway.
Is that true? Heard that.
Yeah, it's true. He's first play of the drive. He snuck out. Like he went out there. Like they even discussed they had some plays for him if need be, but he wasn't. He's not going to be active. He's going to be just there just in case they need him. And yeah, he snuck out anyway. I like the guile. I like the want to be there, but and then Tyler Boyd on the second play got his finger jammed. I don't know what's it's dislocated. It looks like defensive back came to make a play on the ball, and it just threw him off, and he caught the ball square on his finger, and so you get 3 snaps from your 2 and 3 receivers. So it looked like just his timing was off. He's worked with Trent Irwin and Trent Tucker before, and Mitchell Wilcox with Hurst being out, but I think it's the combo of those 3 guys out. It was just sluggish. It took a little while until what was it, 9-minute mark in the second half second quarter, when they finally found the end zone. The running back by committee seemed to work really well. Mixon got the majority of the snaps, which is kind of what we thought, but Pirine still got his fair share. It was 39 to 29 snaps. Mixon.
That's kind of how we expected, and kind of what we were hoping for.
Yeah, and in the first half, the splits were a lot closer in the first half. Mixon got more carries in the second half because he was the hot hand. I mean, he was running the ball well, and I hope they keep doing that. Keep the splits pretty close. Yeah. Pirine is going to be in there more in passing situations, and Mixon is the better running. But keep the split. It works well.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm going to say it here. I'm done, at least for now, trashing Joe Mixon. Well, about football-related things anyway. He's been playing great since the line got their shit together. 14 rushes for 96 yards. That's a 6.9 yards per carry average there. 2 catches for 10. Really solid day. And they just utilized him and Samaje in different ways, in ways that you sort of think that they should be designed to, that we should have been doing a long time ago. You talked about Burrow's slow start. He did finish super strong, going 9 for 12 in the second half. Otherwise, on the offense, obviously we have to talk a little bit about Jamar Chase, but spoiler alert, I think we'll get into that later. But another huge game for Jamar.
Yeah, gigantic. Especially when you're the only starting wide receiver out there, you know you're going to get bracketed on almost every play. Cornerback's going to be, or safety's going to be shaded on you every single play. Still had 10 catches, 119 yards, and a touchdown. The touchdown he didn't even see coming, which that tells you everything you need to know about Joe Burrow's accuracy and anticipation. Mm-hmm. He was so tightly guarded that he didn't have any thought that the pass was going to come his way until all of a sudden the pass is on his hip. He just catches it 6 points.
Yeah, it was a scary start, but they got it going, and then they're super opportunistic. Cleveland did them a few favors. I think they had 98 penalty yards or something like that, and Cincinnati took advantage of it. It was they've been on the other side of those games too many times, so I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, and on that touchdown drive alone, I mean, it was 4th and 15, and Bengals were out punting, and they blew up Chrisman. I mean, I'm surprised he was actually able to stay in the game. He got hit hard. 15-yard penalty. There was a defensive holding penalty and a 33-yard pass interference penalty. So yeah, and they were aided a lot by Browns making stupid plays, by the Browns going brown. So
there were some other less stupid plays, though.
Much less stupid plays. Did you see the best flea flicker ever? I think it might have been the best flea flicker ever.
The best of all time. I'm going to have a hard time picking one, finding one better. But let's just go ahead and bring this out. I think this is a good opportunity to jump the gun a little bit and get into our bold strategy, Cotton. Good call of the week.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Did you see that coming?
No, but it made absolute perfect sense. I guess they've seen a lot of, I mean, and that's the whole point of the play is you see safeties that are screaming down the line, screaming towards the line to fill run gaps. And on that play, there's Johnson, I can't remember their other safety's name, were, again, screaming for the line of scrimmage, and Mixon flipped through it to Burrow. And Trent Irwin had nobody within like 20 yards of him. I don't know if you've ever played Tecmo Super Bowl, and when you're playing an opponent that picks a run play and you throw a pass play and the guy, absolutely nobody in the screen. That's exactly what that was. To quote or to steal a phrase from T. Higgins, he was booty butt naked open.
He was booty butt naked.
the smile on Trent Irwin's face. I mean, even with the mouth guard, just this huge ear to ear grin as he's celebrating. He did his Irish dance after the touchdown to bring back the Chad Johnson River Dance from 2005, I think it was. Yeah, it was perfect. It was awesome play call. The position on the field and everything just done perfectly. The ball was dropped in a bucket, right in stride.
Yeah, I was at lunch with my fiance and two of her friends, and there was one TV that I was keeping an eye on, and I could not hide the fact that I was paying more attention to the game than I was the conversation when that play happened. And I stood up and bumped my fist, but that was awesome to see. One of the persons I think that's worth highlighting is Mitch Wilcox, backup tight end. He had a great game in Hayden Hurst's absence. He was really, really graded out really well in both the run block and the pass block. And here's a fun question. 4 of the 5 offensive linemen graded out at 55 or below. Did it feel that way to you? I mean, it certainly seemed like it wasn't their best day, but it's encouraging that they can play apparently that poorly and still get the job done.
Yeah, I was surprised. I knew they didn't play very well. There was a lot of pressure. He only had the 1 sack. Jamar Chase got credited with a sack on the end around that I don't know. It wasn't even I don't know if you remember that play. He wasn't even. He pretended like he was going to throw the ball, even though the linemen were 20 yards downfield, and he just curled up and let him tackle him. But they didn't look great. But when I saw the grades come out, I was like, I don't know if I missed. Cordell Volson had a bad game tackle. I mean, it didn't look as bad as it was great. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, and I'll take it. If they're going to play that poorly and the team still win, that's not been the case in the past. So we love that.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the defense. Dominant against Derrick Henry 2 weeks ago, and now against Nick Chubb, 14 carries for 34 yards. My question to you, is DJ Reader the greatest player alive?
He's a freak show. Someone that big, somebody that strong, can move that quickly. Joel Bitonio is the Cleveland Browns left guard. He is one of the very best in the game at his position. And DJ Reader just absolutely put him on skates several times, especially in the run coverage or in on running downs. He would just move him along the, just push him out of the way and make the tackle one-handed. And you don't see anybody else able to do that against Batonia. And he treated him like a ragdoll. Like we talk about him game after game after game, and you see how huge how huge of an impact he makes. Mm-hmm. And the defense struggled a little bit without him, and he's back in the defense. No matter how many injuries there are on the back end or anything, he cures a lot of he cures a lot of ills, and he's getting his paws up in pass coverage as well. He's had batted passes, and I think 3 of the last 4 games, just knocking the ball down on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, man, it's crazy that on a team that has Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, there is a legitimate conversation around whether or not DJ Reader is the best player on the team.
Yeah, I mean, he's easily the most dominant, and he's getting more accolades finally this season. I think you've seen a lot of the national analysts that break down all the tape, and they're actually pointing out how fantastic he is, how he's taking on double teams and still making tackles. I mean, it's one thing to hold up the lineman to keep the linebackers clear to make the tackles. He's making tackles himself even while he's being double teamed. So it's great to see, and he's deserving everything. I mean, he's probably the most dominant player at his position on the Bengals. As good as Joe Burrow is, as good as Chase is, pick a player who's great. I think DJ Reader is better at his position than those guys are.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Another huge game from Jesse Bates as well. Made that game-changing interception. Who else stood out on the defensive side for you?
Everybody up the middle of the defense. DJ, BJ, Pratt, and Bates I've got here in my notes. BJ Hill had another really good game in run and pass defense. When he's able to push the pocket from the inside, that helps out, and especially since Hendrickson's going to miss a little bit of time. If you can get pushed up the middle, that's huge. Yeah. Jermaine Pratt had another gigantic game, graded 90 or so. Again, we'll get into his comments after the game a little bit later here. Bates was the highest graded player. He was graded over 92. So when you have the interior of your defense straight up the middle playing well, that does a ton of good things for your defense. Again, that covers up for a little bit of weakness on the outside. I mean, the Bengals cornerbacks aren't strong right now with Wouzier out. But if you can get pressure up the middle and you get linebackers that are playing well in coverage and safeties that are helping out over the top, that covers a lot of weaknesses.
Yeah, the moral of the story is you hold your opponent to 10 points, you're probably going to win.
Yeah, exactly.
They did. I don't know if you remember the last time these two teams played, but I think Cleveland scored like 1,000 points. So going from 1,000 to 10 is a pretty significant improvement.
Yeah, it seemed a lot more than the 31 on the scoreboard.
Yeah, it sure did. Well, let's get into what has quickly become my favorite segment of the week because it allows me to show you and the world Miss Olivia Newton-John.
Tell me about it, stud.
Sweet Olivia. Joe, who's your Olivia Newton-John stud of the week?
I was all set to highlight Jermaine Pratt again, but my guy, you need to stay off the Twitter machine. Best stretch of play in his career. I mean, he's the best, highest graded defensive player since week 9, I believe, from PFF. But immediately after the game, he goes and complains about needs to be on the field more on third downs for money because he's up on a con. Like, keep those conversations to yourself and your agent and maybe the position coaches. It leaves a bad taste. And it's kind of, players are going to, like, I don't think less of the guy, but it's kind of like.
Yeah. I certainly don't blame him for feeling that way, but when you have Super Bowl aspirations and a team that seems to pride itself on chemistry, you don't like seeing those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing me over we. So instead, I'm going to go with the man, the myth, the legend, Jamar Anthony Chase. He would be on a 1,550-yard pace if he hadn't missed 4 games. He's still on pace for nearly 1,200 yards. Had his highest graded game in his career at 91.6. There aren't enough superlatives. Bengals were down to practice squad players, a wide receiver and tight end. I mean, as much as I like Trent Irwin and Trent Taylor, those guys are practice squad players without the wide receiver room being banged up all year long. and he still caught 10 of 15 passes his way again for, still had for the one touchdown and 119 yards. His last 4 games, bracketing the injury, 7 for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Saints, 8 for 130 yards, 2 touchdowns with a fractured hip the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
7 for 97, only 97 yards against the Chiefs. Didn't find the end zone. Oh, that bum. Let's get rid of him. And then again, 10 for 119 and a touchdown this week. He is, outside of his LSU teammate Jay Jettas, he's probably the most dominant wide receiver out there. He can run every pattern out there. They moved him all over. He was running his regular route tree. He was running Boyd's routes out of the slot. He was running Higgins routes on the outside. He can run everything because he's got that ability. And having that guy along with that quarterback with that accurate, that has that accuracy and that connection that he's played 4 years with Chase already, it's a deadly combination.
Yeah, and he did that without the next 3 best pass catchers on the team. No Higgins, Boyd, or Hayden Hurst. So it makes his performance even more impressive. And he joined one other wide receiver as the only receiver in NFL history with at least 2,000 career receiving yards and 20 touchdown grabs before turning 23 years old. Do you know who that other receiver was?
Certain Randy Moss.
Mr. Randy Moss, who I don't know if you listeners out there are football historians, but he was pretty good.
Yeah, he had a decent career.
Football.
Yeah, a decent career.
If you're going to be put into a group with somebody, he's the guy. But where there are studs, we're actually not going to do a dud award this week because, I don't think anybody deserved to be singled out that way for Cincinnati. But we're going to do something a little bit different, and it is the Billy Madison You Suck Award.
You know something? You suck.
That award never. This award goes to Deshaun Watson. Why? Because screw that guy. That's why.
I wholeheartedly agree. I'm happy to dunk on that guy any chance possible. So he can rot in hell.
Yeah, but where his turdness did allow for a little bit of good news, I guess. You took part in a philanthropic venture. How'd that go?
Yeah, I mean, the goal was just $10 for each sack the Bengals had of him, and $20 for each turnover donated to YWCA Cincinnati. I donated 50 because I like 50 better than 40. There was another big push through Cincinnati Bengals Twitter for women helping women. They raised over $1,100, basically basically because screw Deshaun Watson. So again, there, good things can, when people kind of pull together as a community, good things can happen. You hate for that money to be raised because someone's a predator and still allowed to make $230 million guaranteed, but voices were heard. So
that is a very handy contract. All right, enough talk about that lose bag. Let's get into your award for the week, Joe. I will play the clip and then you can explain it away.
Sir, Gunner's made first class Philip asshole.
How many assholes we got on this ship anyhow?
Go!
I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
Keep firing, assholes.
Perfect segue since we were just talking about Deshaun Watson. Go.
This goes to Nick Chubb. He is a legitimate stud wide receiver. Wow. Legitimate stud running back. Bengals killer. Charitable. He has his own branded cereal that's about to hit the shelves in Cleveland area. Foundation supports SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome. His nephew apparently passed away to that when he, as young. I mean, legitimate good guy. He's a guy, all 32 teams want someone that good and, that decent of a guy. But he's surrounded by assholes. There's beside, everyone is going to dunk on the city of Cleveland. I'm not going to dunk on the city itself. I'll dunk on individuals. Owner Jimmy Haslam, his company was investigated by the FBI for defrauding customers. They ended up having to pay $94 million to settle. He has a 55, 111, and 1 record while owning that team. He's on his 7th coach in just over 10 seasons. He took over as principal owner and that 7th game of 2012. So 10 years and 6 games, he's lost 111 games. That's fantastic, and 7 coaches. So keep up the good work. Exactly. You've got Kareem Hunt, who's caught on film kicking his significant other, Deshaun Watson. We all know his multiple-time Scum Award winner. You had the fans who were wearing. There's the father and son. I don't know if you recall this back in. It was preseason when Watson was allowed to play. Father and son having signs, and this kid looked like he was 7 years old, that said "F dem hoes" and "Free Deshaun Watson."
Yeah,
classy way to drag your kid in.
Unfortunately, I do remember that.
And other vulgar T-shirts that they're selling outside a game, supporting a predator. So, again, Nick Chubb surrounded by assholes.
Yeah, and you said a good thing. We are not hating on the city of Cleveland or all of its people. We don't think everyone in Cleveland is an asshole. But we do think that Deshaun Watson, Kareem Hunt, Jimmy Haslam, and the father that got his son to wear the FDM host T-shirts, you guys specifically are assholes. If you don't like it, send me an email, team@riverfrontcincy.com.
You can find me right here.
Yeah, we're not hard to find. My award this week is the Godfather Stray Cat Award to Trent Irwin. And I think that I might have forgot to upload the clip. So don't worry about that. So anyway, the story goes that the cat held and petted by Marlon Brando during the opening scene of The Godfather was a random stray that Francis Ford Coppola found and just inserted into the scene to see what would happen. First off, it's an adorable little cat, so go back and watch the clip. Second, the cat stole the show. Its mere presence showed a softer side of the Corleone family patriarch, and there was some pretty unreal conspiracy theories floating around out there regarding the little fella, so go check those out in your spare time. But third, by definition, a stray cat is an unknown domestic cat that, as a result, becomes wild. It doesn't particularly enjoy being handled. And this reminds me of another quote-unquote stray cat that was picked up off the streets and went on to make a gigantic impact that no one saw coming.
Brian Setzer? That's stray cats. Never mind.
Bengals wide receiver Trent Irwin. A little recap to bring the listeners up to speed on our boy Trenton. After his college career ended at Stanford, he was undrafted in the 2019 draft, stray, signed by the Dolphins the same year but promptly released a few months later, stray. The Bengals then signed him in October of 2019, and from that point until this season, he was waived and re-signed to the practice squad on 3 separate occasions. They just wouldn't let him stay in the house. Stray. Well, it seems like our young stray cat, Mr. Trent Irwin, has finally found a home. Not only did he get the first touchdown catch of his career back in Week 11, he repeated the feat in the win over Cleveland on what some are claiming was the best flea flicker of all time. It completely changed the momentum of the game, and he got his chance to appear on every sports and highlight channel and show in the country. So, much like the legendary feline from The Godfather, Trent Irwin, the guy the Cincinnati Brass found on the scrap heap and inserted into a major scene, stole the show on Sunday and has hopefully found his forever home. So,
you really hope that he's going to make himself a lot of money this year. I mean, how much of a future he's going to have with the Bengals after, who knows? The Bengals have a pretty stacked wide receiver room. They'll draft somebody who's got, whatever availability one way or the other. But you hope that, hopefully he can be here with the Bengals. If not, then with some other team and just get a roster spot and make money. He plays his ass off. He deserves to be on somebody's 53-man roster for an entire season. Injuries, non-injuries, whatever. I mean, he's just a damn good player. And you could thank the Bengals wide receiver coach, Troy Walters, who was a Stanford alum. He was actually thought to be up for their head coaching job. That connection, I'm sure, helped convince Irwin to stick around on the Bengals. So,
yeah, awesome job. Love to see it, and go make that money.
Yeah, as Bonacetta said, I believe in Trent Irwin. No, that's not what he says. He says, I believe in America, but I was close.
Yeah, that's what he meant.
Yeah.
Playoff watch. Seems like every week the two teams on top of the AFC North do the same thing. The other two teams did the same thing also. Cincinnati and Baltimore both won again. Baltimore somehow won because the football gods hate us and are tied at 9-4. Baltimore still has that tiebreaker. Their head-to-head and division record is better. So we're hoping for a loss there soon. And then Cleveland, we know, lost. Pittsburgh also lost to Baltimore. Both teams are at 5-8, essentially out of the playoff picture at this point. And Cincinnati is the 5th seed as things stand right now. But they're playing as well or better than anybody else in the AFC. So I'm feeling I'm riding this high right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Bengals they're on a 5-game win streak. I mean, the only other team or the longest win streak in the NFL right now, at least in the AFC. The Buffalo Bills have a 4-game winning streak, and then Baltimore has a 2-game winning streak. Everyone else has 1 game or coming off a loss. So it's kind of a weird up and down season in the AFC. But Cleveland's bound to lose one of these games. I mean, they barely beat Denver, barely beat Pittsburgh, only because Mitchell Trubisky likes throwing to the Ravens better than they like throwing to George Pickens, which I can't believe him. George Pickens comes across like an asshole, so I can understand not wanting to give him the ball. Barely beat Carolina, and they lost to Jacksonville. I mean, they should be absolutely running away with this division as far as the Bengals put themselves in a hole.
Yeah, the shoe has to drop.
Yeah, exactly. They're still going to be without Lamar Jackson this week. Huntley's should be able to play, but they're playing at Cleveland. And Cleveland's first game. I mean, Cleveland's not a terrible team. I mean, they have a lot of talent, and again, you don't want to root for Cleveland, but it would be nice if Cleveland kind of returned the favor and took care of business this week, just to get that one, get that separation.
If Deshaun Watson and Kareem Hunt can get the flu, miss the game, be totally fine. Full recovery, skip this game. Cleveland wins. Not going to break my heart.
Yeah, I was going to say if Baltimore wins, the Bengals have no tiebreaker against Baltimore anymore, or that would be the Baltimore's 4th win in division. The Bengals' best hope is going 3-3 because they lost the first 3 games. So kind of need Cleveland to win if there remains to be a tie. And again, Cleveland still has a cakewalk. We'll say cakewalk. They still have an easy stretch down through the end of the season. They got Cleveland, they got Atlanta, which finally started my boy Des Ridder, but that'll be a 2nd career start. They've got Pittsburgh again, and then they've got the Bengals. So you want Cleveland needs to win for the Bengals to have any hope to win tiebreakers. I mean, ultimately, it'll probably come down to week 18, but the more tiebreakers in your favor, the better.
Yeah, of course. Well, that brings us to another interesting topic that Joe Burrow started popping up in the MVP conversation. Skylar Webker, who is a member of the Riverfront Patreon family and an overall just rad dude, he asked an interesting question on our Slack channel yesterday. He said, if the Bengals beat the Bills along with their victory over the Chiefs, does Burrow become the overwhelming favorite for MVP? I'm seeing him with the 3rd best odds right now in the most recent odds. I don't know what you call them, rankings or whatever. What do you think? What do you think needs to happen for him to win the MVP?
The Bengals need to finish with the number 1 seed in the AFC. Thanks to Paul Dehner Jr. of The Athletic that did this research, 8 of the last 10, and 10 of all 10 have been quarterbacks. 8 of the last 10 have been the quarterback of the number 1 overall seed in their conference. The other 2 were number 2 seeds. If the Bengals remain, if Baltimore ends up winning the division, it doesn't matter what Joe Burrow does. He's not going to, no matter what his stats say, he's not going to win the award. Bengals have to get ahead. I mean, then again, with the tiebreaker over the Chiefs, it's a huge hand, but they need to be the number 1 or number 2 seed in the conference. And then they need just Jalen Hurts to stumble a little bit. Right now, he's the overall overwhelming favorite. He hasn't had a bad game. He's been fantastic. He's got to come back to earth and have either just an absolute stinker game where he's 10 of 25 and 3 interceptions, or just play pedestrian for a few games while Burrow balls out. So I don't think I don't think he's going to win, which I don't care. I mean, only 2 Bengals have won the MVP in history, and that was Kenny Anderson in 81 and Boomer in 88, both Super Bowl years. But I don't care. I'll take him on my team over any of the other 31 quarterbacks.
Yeah, sure. And I have him at third too, and maybe even a kind of distant third. And my primary line of reasoning is that for those other two teams to win, their quarterbacks need to put up stats. Cincinnati doesn't necessarily need Joe Burrow to throw up video game numbers to win, and he certainly isn't going to force it. He's not going to – if he only needs to throw 3 passes and just hand off all game, he'll do that and won't complain a bit. So running the table and beating the Bills would certainly give him a chance to catch up to those two, but he'd need a little bit of help. A couple bad losses by Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes would be that help that he needs. And if you, like Skylar, would like to ask us a question, you can do so by joining our growing Patreon family, where on top of sweet perks, including exclusive footage of Joe and myself playing shirtless beach volleyball in our jorts, we have a really fun Slack channel. And we're on there every day talking about the Bengals, the Reds, movies, life, love, and the pursuit of happiness, but not that terrible Will Smith movie. You can do that by going to patreon.com/riverfrontcincy, or if you're lame and don't want to see shirtless pictures of Joe and myself, email us at team@riverfrontcincy.com. Joe, what's the injury update, the latest?
My wife just sent a text that said that she'd like me edited out of that picture. So I don't know if that tells you. She's seen enough after almost 23 years of being together.
She just saw the picture and she just signed up for the Patreon. Thank you, Mr.
Carson. Injury update. It's actually relatively optimistic considering kind of how many guys got dinged up last week. T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd were both limited in practice, but Boyd was out there in uniform catching passes, which is good to see. I mean, somebody's got a finger injury and dislocated finger. I'm assuming there wasn't any cartilage or ligament damage or anything, or he wouldn't have been out there. I would lean to him not playing, which would mean Trent Taylor time most likely in the slot. But considering he's out there on the first day of practice and at least limited, I mean that it's a good sign. It's pain threshold. It's whether he's able to catch. Burrow needs to sneak one in a tight window and fires it, whether he can handle that or brace himself when he comes down. I'm going to assume that he's going to be out this week, but I'm not putting money that he won't be there. Higgins looks to be a go. He's got the hamstring injury. He's probably going to be limited through the week just to keep him on a pitch count to keep his reps down. He was out there limited this week, limited today, but he could have gone on Sunday if they needed him to, and I would put 55 to 45 odds that he's out there on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. So Trey Hendrickson was not at practice today. He's not on IR, and everything that a lot of it's gamesmanship, but everything that Taylor's been saying is that he could be out there this week. He's day to day. He's gonna miss at least a week or so. He's got a injured wrist. First they said broken. Now he's saying he's got a wrist issue. Again, how much of that is gamesmanship? They're not putting him on IR because they want to be able to have him out there to practice as soon as he feels ready, as opposed to having to wait for 4 weeks. I would expect he's not going to be out there for at least a couple weeks. But here's hoping it's sooner than later, because, I mean, he's as good as Hubbard has been. I think Hubbard's had his best season rushing the passer. Hendrickson is the guy. I mean, he's in top 5 for pressures and pressure percentage of anybody, any edge rusher in the entire league. Good news is Joseph Osai, who is in line to make the start of Hendrickson, is out. He had a shoulder issue. Came back into the game last Sunday, but he's still listed with a shoulder injury. I think he was listed as limited as well, but the fact that he was out there is a good sign. I think he's probably going to be good to go on Sunday. And the Hayden Hurst, he had his walking boot removed. He's still doubtful for this week, so I would assume he's going to at least get another week, maybe 2, but 1 more week. Mitch Wilcox again. You don't want, yeah, exactly. You don't want him as your starting tight end, but he's given some damn good reps out there. He's not the receiver that Hayden Hurst is, but he's been pretty solid out there, and he's been a really good blocker. So he's everything that you would hope. Better than what you would hope for. What's legitimately your third string tight end. I mean, Drew Sample.
Yeah, you can't say enough about this coaching staff keeping these second and third and even practice squad guys motivated, ready to go, and sharp. Because time and time again this season, people have come up out of nowhere and just put up monster performances, even knowing that they're going to get sent right back down. You love to see it. It speaks to that chemistry that we've talked about. And, don't risk getting these guys any more injured. You're playing for a little bit more than a win, and you have that confidence in the people behind you. You don't need to rush these guys back. As much as I am sure that they're all going to want to get on the field for a Week 15 matchup against some scrub named Tom Brady. Joe Burrow is going to show what real quarterbacking is all about.
His 6th-round draft pick.
Just kidding. Tom Brady is the GOAT. But at 4:25 p.m. on Sunday, the Bengals are traveling to Tampa Bay as 3.5-point favorites to take on Tampa, Tom, and the Buccaneers. What are some of the big storylines you are keeping an eye on for this one, Joe?
Can I just point out one personal kind of annoyance? We'll put it that way. Nobody plays in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a body of water. Every stadium that they have, whether it's the Lightning, whether it's the Buccaneers, whether it's the Rays, they all play on land. So nobody plays in Tampa Bay. They play in the city of Tampa, or for the Rays, St. Pete. So now that we have that clear.
No, you cannot make that point. It's too late. Is it too late to stop?
Yeah. Geography hot.
You know something? You suck.
Not cool. Anyway, on to the storylines. Again, assuming Trey Henderson is not playing, can they sustain pressure on Thomas Methuselah Brady? They still have a lot of older but quality receivers out there. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Julio Jones. I mean, he still has a pretty talented receiving core. And TB12 is still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So you need to make sure, again, he's the least mobile quarterback probably ever. He makes Drew Bledsoe look like Lamar Jackson. So again, they've got to be able to get pressure. So again, Sam Hubbard's been playing his ass off and again, playing his best football as an edge rusher this season. BJ Hill's been coming on strong. DJ Reader might have to play more snaps on passing downs because he can get pressure. You don't want to do that to the detriment of him down the stretch and wearing him out. But again, it's Osai time probably, maybe Cam Sample to get some steps. But this and depth has come up time and time again. But this is another depth game where they need that depth to step up.
Yeah, that's right. Some of the things that I was reading about, I found interesting that Tampa Bay seems to be really good with their scripted, like first 10 beginning of game plays. And if Cincy can get out to an early lead and force the Bucs to go off script, I think the offensive advantage tilts even more heavily in favor of the Bengals. They're only one game up on the Panthers and Falcons and 2 games up on the Saints in their division. So they are not likely to have a shot at a wild card spot either. So every game is an absolute must win for them. 5 straight wins, 7 of 8, 9 of 11 for Cincinnati. One team is definitely feeling a lot better about their situation than the other one is, but I don't care what the records say. You're playing Tom Brady on the road, not in Tampa Bay, in the city of Tampa, and that is always, always tough. But the Bucs are allowing 4.5 yards per carry to running back, so we might get a heavy dose of Mixon and Samaje this week, and I would love to see that, especially if either or both of those receivers have to miss the game. And then sort of the last thing that I felt like point out is that they're one of the worst teams in the league on third downs, which isn't like a historical thing. But this season, they've just been brutal all year long on third. So Lou Anarumo's defense should have the opportunity for some key stops and hopefully advantageous field position for Joe Burrow and the offense.
Yeah, and I know they struggle to stop the run, but Burrow's still going to drop back to throw it 35, 40 times. That's just the Bengals' DNA. They're going to be a lot more efficient and effective, which is going to make play action and RPO game a lot more effective for the Bengals. So this is a game where the offense should be able to feast. O-line has a chance to recover from the rough game against Cleveland. Bucs are injured all over the board, and especially at edge. They don't have any high-level pass rusher. Devin White, who's their linebacker, might be their best threat to rush the passer, but that means you're going to have to blitz. And if you're blitzing Joe Burrow, you're asking for trouble. So, again, this is a game to where if you're looking for an edge, I mean, this is a game the Bengals should be able to put up 35, 40 points. Again, is it going to happen? Who knows? Fluke crap happens.
Tom Brady on the road.
Exactly. You're playing on the road, and Burrow has his propensity for having passes batted down, and you see what, you could have some freak human nature. TJ Watt just snatch it out of the air, or how many interceptions has Burrow had just off of tips?
I'm not mad. I'm not mad that we don't have to face Myles Garrett this week.
Yeah,
they don't have to face.
Yeah, I mean that guy's a freak of nature. I don't know any other way to put it. I mean he's just good.
Yeah. How do you see this game going, man?
After saying they should put up 35 points or so, I'm hedging. I'm going to say 24-13. It's not going to surprise me if they put up a lot, maybe not quite attract me because the Bengals defense is playing so damn good. Again, I'm going 24-13. I'm going to say it stays relatively close. They score a touchdown late, under 5 minutes in the fourth quarter just to put it away. So what do you think is going to happen this week?
We are fairly close in our sentiments. I have Cincinnati winning 27-17. Close at halftime, maybe even down at the half, but Lose D shuts Tampa Bay down in the second, and since he pulls away to a comfortable win in the fourth, and I won't mind if that's the case at all. Joe, I think that pretty much covers it. What final thoughts do you have for me, for the guests, for anybody out there in the ether?
Just because the Bengals aren't playing Deshaun Watson doesn't mean it's not a good time to make any donation to any women's charity, especially if it comes to survivors and, victims of domestic abuse, sexual abuse, anything like that. So it doesn't have to be any specific reason, just as a middle finger to some predator, D-bag on another football team. Again, it is especially this time of year. So be charitable, be kind.
Absolutely. It is the season. Well, that is going to do it for us this week. Thank you to everyone for listening and supporting the Riverfront Bengals show. Please remember to subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/RiverfrontCincy or in your favorite podcast app. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We are at Riverfront Cincy and at TR Bengals Show on all those platforms. For Joe Farsing, I'm Nate Dotson. Take it easy, y'all.